Mi nombre es Steven Palmer y yo soy el ingeniero principal en la Unity Austin. And now I will switch to English. I'm sorry, I don't really have an excuse actually. I should know Spanish by now because mi esposa es de Torreón, Coahuila. But I only learned mom Spanish. So, like, baja los pies de la mesa. So, yeah, all my Spanish is very angry. But if it's any consolation, my children speak Spanish, so there is hope for the next generation in my house. Anyway, it's an honor to be here and speak with you. I'm here to discuss finding success as a game developer. And I promise I will talk about Unity a little bit also. When I was asked to speak on this topic, the first question that came to my mind, and probably a question you are asking, is what do you mean by success? How do you define that? Well, I could say as long as you're getting joy and fulfillment out of your pursuit of game development, that you're successful. And we can stop here and go to lunch. But I don't think that's super helpful. So I'll try to be a little more practical and pragmatic. So I came up with 3 things I think that are, based on my own experience, I think are important and practical for any game developer in pursuit of success. There are a lot more, I'm sure, and everyone that works in video game business has their own opinions, but you're stuck with me so that I get to tell you what I think. So here are my main points, and we'll talk about these in a little more depth. So first of all, we need to define success. You should define success and commit to something. Second of all, don't walk it alone, meaning don't work alone. And always be a gamer. So those are my 3 main points. And as a bonus, I'll talk a little bit about how Unity is trying to help you succeed with your Unity projects and games. So the first and most important idea is to define success and commit to a path. So at first I thought I'd start by talking about my own path to success as a game developer. So I'm going to show you a picture. It's a little bit embarrassing, but it's part of my story. So here I am. I'm the one that's standing up there. This is 1995. And I'm pretty sure that this was the night of a dance at our high school. And I am not there. And I think we're probably playing Doom or Dune at the time. I understand that LAN parties are now cool, but I assure you they were not cool back then. But I didn't care. I love games. I love playing games, and I love playing with my friends. A couple years later, I left for college. And at college, I discovered Quake modding. And that's pretty much all I did at college, actually. My grades suffered pretty badly. I was in a dormitory that had high-speed internet access, which was pretty unique at the time. So I spent all my time there. But I did find a community of Quake enthusiasts on IRC. Some of you may still use IRC. And I met some people that were starting a company in Dallas, Texas. And they liked my work, such as it was, and offered me a job. So, of course, I dropped out of school, and I moved to Dallas. And in Dallas, I spent 10 years working at Gearbox. And there I had the opportunity to work on a lot of really cool games. Wow. So I'll get back to my story later, but first let's talk about a few different ways you might see success as a game developer. So what does success look like? Well, the first thing you might think about are famous game developers, people that have achieved a very high profile in their work. And I think there's something to learn from that. I picked 3 of them. We'll talk a little bit about them later. More likely, though, you might be thinking about a successful career in game development. This would be jobs at larger studios. You might think about being a developer or a lead developer in production, game design, audio design, art, or programming. Maybe even quality assurance, test engineers, developers and test leads. IT and DevOps, these are support roles, infrastructure roles, that support the developers and also support live games that are deployed. There's writing, there's marketing, HR, community management. All of these roles are very important to fill in the studio environment, and all can be very successful in terms of career. For a lot of you, though, the idea of working in a studio does not sound appealing at all. You dream of becoming a successful independent developer. So what does that look like? Well, it could be that game development for you is purely a hobby. Success can simply be the reward of learning and creating. Honestly, I think we should all start here, regardless of your ambition. I think if you can't find joy and fulfillment in making games without making money, it's not going to change when you're making money, and you have the pressures of supporting people and supporting yourself. All of you would probably really enjoy a wildly successful breakout game. I agree. But if we're honest, we know that there are no guarantees that that can happen. But maybe you'd like to find a way to build a financially sustainable game backed by a really loyal community. I personally think this is kind of the sweet spot in independent development. And if you can succeed here, it's a great foundation towards finding your breakout hit. So regardless of which path you choose, decide and commit to it and pursue it with vigor. I think that word's the same in Spanish, vigor. I'll try to offer a little bit of advice on these 3 different paths to success. So going back to our high-profile successes, what can we learn from these individuals? Hideo Kojima, who's heard of him? Yeah, everybody? He's pretty much known exclusively for Metal Gear, because that's pretty much all he did his entire life was work on Metal Gear games. He wrote, directed, and produced 12 different games on his own. There's many more Metal Gear titles, but 12 of them had his stamp, his creative input. And he started in 1987. And he just started a new studio. I'm sure you've heard of that. Sid Meier. Anybody heard of Sid Meier? Yep. He created the Civilization franchise and Pirates. But he worked on a ton of stuff, lots of games. He's got credits as far back as 1982. The thing that he's consistently recognized for is being one of the most respected designers of all time. And then I added this woman, Kelly Santiago. She founded a small independent game studio called That Game Company, where they made Flower, and Journey. And then she moved on to become the producer of games at Google, and now she oversees Google's VR games and projects. And she's also part of the Indie Fund, which you may or may not have heard of. It's basically an investment fund that is used to back independent game development that looks promising, which was started by Jonathan Blow, who made Braid. So she's an investor in that. So I can't give you a formula to become a high-profile success, but I think there's a few things we can learn from these examples and others like them. First of all, they all have strong work ethics. They're not lazy. Flojo. They're hard workers. They're committed to their craft. They have a passion for what they do. And thirdly, they're respected by their peers. They've all contributed in a positive way to the industry. So in short, they've really earned their place at the top, and they continue to do so. But what about career success in the game industry? What if you're interested in working on big budget games and established studios? Well, I would say that a portfolio is absolutely critical. Education and university programs can help, but hiring is still largely experience-based and talent-driven. Be prepared to show your work and be judged very critically. I will say that programmers definitely have the most opportunities in large studios. Highly skilled programmers are always in demand. That's pretty much true everywhere. But what if you have no experience? Well, I would consider quality assurance as a foot in the door opportunity. In most studios, QA and development are linked very strongly. The team works very closely with developers, and it's a good opportunity to demonstrate and practice skills for positions that might open up. I watched a lot of people in Gearbox and other studios I was in go from a QA position to a developer position. It happens all the time. So while development at large studios is rewarding in many ways, it is not a great environment for individual risk-taking. You're part of a big team and you probably have a very narrow role. Those of you looking for success as independent developers have a great opportunity to be creative without many boundaries. So I would share 3 bits of advice based on my own experience a long time ago when I got started and based on my observation of today's successful indie developers. First of all, I would share your work early, get feedback from other developers, maybe open your game up to early access and allow your fans to participate in the process. Don't shield yourself from criticism. This will almost always end in disappointment. Second of all, I'd say find your team and don't work alone. Some of you can and will be successful solo developers, but you will improve the quality of your work and your chance of success by working with others. I'll talk a little bit more about that in a bit. Apologies for my phone. Finally, I'd say build your community. Engage with your players. A single game can become a hobby for a lot of people. So that means the more active and alive they perceive your game to be, the longer they'll stick around. So keep giving your players reasons to come back and see what's new. And also be active on social media. Talk to your players. So again, decide what you want to do and pursue it with vigor. Sometimes, though, what you want changes. So back to my own story, after 10 years at Gearbox, I decided I wanted to find success in a different way. I was proud of the work I'd done at Gearbox, but was ready for change. I was looking to get on the ground floor of something new. So I joined up with a small team of developers in Austin, Texas, who had also spent as many or more years of their careers working at bigger studios. We called ourselves Fun Machine, and we used Unity to create mobile games. Unity 3.5, a long time ago. And so here's where success, though, isn't always obvious when you're in the position we were in. We all had families, and none of us were wealthy enough to work without pay, so we had to make the business work. It was a tough time for funding for small developers like us. And things like the Indie Fund didn't exist. It was just difficult to find people that would take risk on small mobile developers. But we had created some really great tools for mobile development, and we saw an opportunity to build a business around these tools. So we made a new company called Tsugi. Unity found us and bought our company. That was cool. The tools we built are now called Unity Cloud Build, which is part of the Unity services. So that's my story so far. I feel like I've been successful, but my story is different than yours. So I say find your path to success and commit to it. So we spent a little time talking about that. My next point is don't walk it alone. Even way back in 1998 when I was working on Quake mods in college, this point was critical to my own success. If it weren't for my involvement in the Quake community on IRC, I would have missed a big opportunity. The game industry is a community that has thrived on sharing ideas and techniques. So take advantage of that. And also be a contributor. Be an active member of the community. Here are a few ideas to get you started on places to engage. I assume that because you're here, you're probably thinking about these things already. Also want to encourage you to attend the Track 2 talk at 3 o'clock by Esteban Duran. He'll be speaking about Spanish language community resources. Unity also tries to help by providing ways for developers to connect and solve problems together. And you can check out our community resources page there. And here's an idea you may or may not have thought about. If you don't have a lot of money, or any money, to work with, trade in skills with each other. If you're a programmer, primarily, and you need art help in your game, offer to do some programming for an artist that needs that. That's a great way to improve the quality of what you're working on and to make new connections. The bottom line is, it doesn't matter whether you have a team of 2 or 10 or 100, it's always going to be better as a team. it'll show up in a minute. So find your team, involve them in the creative process, and your work's going to be fuller and richer for it. So my last piece of advice is to always be a gamer. And I have to confess, this is the one that I struggle with the most, particularly now that I technically don't even make games for a living. I think struggling to find time to play new games is actually the secret confession of a lot of professional game developers, particularly if you have family and a lot of other things going on. But regardless, it's critical to always be a gamer. This is especially important for anyone driving design decisions, but also important for every team member that contributes. Player and audience desires and expectations change constantly. It's important to know the state of the art so you can anticipate new trends. Another benefit is that you'll always be learning new techniques from deconstructing other games, whether that's just playing through them or modding them. And finally, stay connected with gamers by being involved in the community for games you're playing. They're your potential players and customers, so it's vital that you learn their language and learn how to talk to them. So, define success and commit to a path. Don't walk it alone. Always be a gamer. That's the best advice I can give you in a general sense. Finally, I wanted to briefly mention some resources that Unity has created to help you succeed in your game, your Unity game specifically. First of all, Unity has created a suite of services to help you be successful during development of your game and after it launches. First up, my favorite, Unity Cloud Build. It's a continuous integration and build system that supports Android, iOS, desktop, and WebGL platforms. So if your project's in source control and on one of those platforms, use it. Analytics gives you insight into what your players are doing in your game. This is critical to understanding what you need to do to make it better. So if you're building anything that anybody else will play, you should be using analytics. And it's free and easy to turn on from any project. Unity Ads helps you make money. If you're building something free to play and you like to make money, you should use ads. Multiplayer, we have a multiplayer suite. Unity Multiplayer is the easiest way to create real-time network games in Unity. So if you're building something people will play together, use that. Crash reporting, which is being renamed to game performance, collects client crashes and soon other vital statistics from your players. So if you want insight into what's happening with the players that have installed your game, crashes that are happening, crash reporting is a great tool to get a view into that and to find and fix bugs. Finally, Collaborate. Collaborate allows you to work together with other teammates on your project if you're not already using source control. So it's a very straightforward way to have source control built into Unity. Use it soon. It's not available to everybody yet. It's still in alpha, but it will be soon. A few more links to some other resources here. Unity Learn has a ton of tutorials and example projects. Made with Unity is a great place to showcase your game and tell your story. If you've got something that's done or close to done, I highly encourage you to go sign up and fill out the form there and tell your story. And Unity certifications are a new program for becoming a certified developer. So finally, I want all of you here to feel free to email me directly too, during or after the conference. I want to be a resource to you, whether that's answering more specific questions or connecting you with people and resources that you might need. So I can't promise results from that, but I will at least try. Gracias.